Okay, I think we're live. Good morning, lovely people. Let me switch that. Perfect. Welcome to another Upspiral Grief interview. I have the absolute honor to welcome Adam Blatch with us here today. Adam Blatch is, I think, started off as the co-founder of Feel the Magic and now has stepped into those big boots. Is that right? Or am I getting that wrong? I should have asked you that before we go live.
That's all right. So, James Thomas and Christy Thomas were the co-founders, and they started the charity about 8 years ago. And I started as the chief operating officer last year and moved into the CEO role in January this year.
Perfect. That's the one thing I knew, and I wasn't sure how it all started. So thank you so much for clearing that up. That is a pre-interview question. I just stuffed it up, but that's okay. We jumped straight into it. I am really excited to have Adam here today because, as some of you might know, we had James Thomas here for an interview quite a few months back, and we shared a lot of things that are happening, that were happening in Feel the Magic. And then when James decided to step back, I reconnected with Adam and said, hey, I think we've got so many things to talk about, to maybe even collaborate with. Let's reach out to each other. Let's have a chat. And we jumped on the phone and I said, I really want to get you in front of the camera and introduce you to our audience. So I will get you to do that in a minute. But I want to share a quick personal story why Adam is actually here, so you understand that how much that means to me actually. So thank you so much for being here today, Adam. It really means a lot to me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. When Rob first passed, I looked around what help was out there for children of grieving, grieving children who have lost a parent. And I came across Feel the Magic, and I feel that you guys are pretty much the only ones out there on that level who offer such amazing one-on-one support for kids. So there's a kids camp that you run 4 times a year. Pre-COVID, that was in person, and now things have changed a lot. This is what we're going to talk about today. And I absolutely love what you were doing. I read that each kid gets one personal mentor. I thought this is incredible. Where do you get that? And everything I read about the camp, I really loved. So I reached out. There was, unfortunately, naturally quite a wait list. And we talk about the stats a little bit later on as well, maybe. And they told me it will be about 6 months before we could get a spot. And by that time, through to what I'm doing and what my beliefs are, the boys were luckily at the level where they said, we don't want to be with sad kids. And I was like, wow, that was their perception of it, And I'm like, but it's going to be fun. It's not about sadness. It's about fun. It's like, no, they didn't want to. However, I look more and more into what you guys are doing, and I think it's absolutely incredible. So before I get any further, I would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience, Adam. Sure. Please do us a favor.
Oh, thank you for having me again, Marie. It really is appreciated. My background, I started with Feel the Magic in February 2020, a month-ish before COVID really hit. And it was disappointing globally, I suppose, but for what we do at Feel the Magic was all face-to-face delivery of our programs. So I'll backtrack a little bit because that'll lead into why I'm passionate about what we do and being on the ground. As a young person, many years ago, I was really passionate about helping young people get a healthy and physical start to life. So I started out with the YMCA, working with kids and in youth programs and in schools before I moved into management roles there, and have been fortunate enough to, forge a career in the not-for-profit and charity sector. I went on to work for Camp Quality for 3 years, so supporting kids who were on various cancer journeys. Then with Ronald McDonald House for 4 years, and then to a Sutherland Shire-based disability organisation, and then I ended up at Feel the Magic. So seeing what we do on the ground is really where it makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, I can only imagine. It's like one of the probably very confronting but most rewarding things that you can do, to work with children that are grieving, that have lost one or more parents. And do I remember the statistics correctly? That it's like 1 in 20 children in Australia that lose one or more parents a year?
Yeah, that's correct. So, and we focus on kids that lose a parent or a sibling. And we know the statistics are roughly 1 in 20. So that's 300,000 kids at any one point in time that lose a parent. We don't know the statistics around the numbers of kids that lose a sibling.
Wow.
So it's much higher.
Yeah.
A big
Yeah, it's
audience to try and
absolutely
help and
incredible,
support.
actually.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's
I truly love
it's obviously,
what you do at the
sorry.
camp. Sorry, I think we're overlapping here. You go.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, it's and Feel the Magic. We touched on it before the interview, but we are one of few organisations that support kids in the way that we do, and to the scale that we do it. There are no others,
Yeah.
and we like to see that we're a part of a solution to a family's grief. We're not the only solution. So we're not counselling. We see a place for counselling. We're not psychologists. Programs are psychoeducational and they're overseen by a clinical director, but it's not one-to-one with a psych or a counsellor. And it's the other parts, which I'm sure we'll get to in a moment, about camp that make it different, that bring the magic of understanding grief to a child and their family's life. So,
yeah, let's just jump straight into it. Tell us a little bit about the camps, how they were run before COVID, because that's what really touched me. That's what I absolutely love. Can you run us through how long are they? You know, what do they actually do there, so people actually get an understanding? Because we do have a lot of people in the group who have lost a husband, a spouse, you know, and there are obviously a lot of children involved that would need that help. So I'd really love for you to give us a bit of a understanding of what's happening in those camps.
absolutely. So we focus on our support, not so much in the first 6 months post-bereavement, because there's a lot of family and a lot of community support around the family in that period.
Yeah.
And there's no real psychological basis for that, other than that after that 6 months is where that isolation and that lack of support, or the support, seems to drop off a little bit. So 6 months post-bereavement, families should be reaching out to us, get some help and support. So when kids come to camp, it's a 3-day immersive program. Up until, or last year, we had 7 camps planned for 2020. Due to COVID, we couldn't run them, but we're running in Victoria, ACT, and New South Wales. So we have expanded in where we operate Camp Magic.
Yeah.
At camp, kids get matched with a like adult mentor. So it is one-to-one. We aim for same-sex matching. We sometimes divert from that depending on the needs of the family or the kids and so on. But we try to stick to that, and we always have one-to-one where we can, due to obviously the impact of what the program does. And from the Friday afternoon to the Sunday afternoon, we take the kids on an emotional journey of understanding, or how to feel and manage their grief, and how to manage the big emotions that come through it. So, and obviously there's the challenge and the reward part of being at camp, in a camp environment where you get to do some fun stuff. It is an emotional roller coaster, but so the two most important things is, one, we help the kids understand and feel their grief, and the language and the strategies to manage in those moments that emotions start to take over. And the second one is the connection the kids make, and the way that the kids connect with other kids, so they don't feel like they are the only kid going through that loss in this world, or, you know, if they've got a sibling, with their siblings as well. It can be very isolating, and then to go to camp and to feel that other kids have experienced just like them is one of the biggest that the kids come. Or you'll tell me in a moment. When the kids go, they don't necessarily want to go to camp, but they can't wait to come back.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I can only understand, like, you know, from my point of view, when I look at my boys, I mean, they were 8 and 10 when Rob passed. They're now 11 and 13. But it would be quite daunting for kids to go there, because they go there without their parents, and to go somewhere where you already feel so vulnerable. It's understanding that there was probably, there might be hesitation from parents as well as children, but what they receive there is just absolutely incredible. So obviously you would understand, you've got 2 children yourself, you know, it is just something where I feel giving children the language to deal with that is a really, really big thing. And I don't know how your children are, but my 2 boys couldn't be any more different. So naturally, they dealt with the grief very different as well, just because they have different characters. They are very different age. And although they're close in age, there's a huge difference. Like, in particular now, Flynn is already in high school. It's his 2nd year in high school. Jed is his last year in primary school. There is a huge
Yeah.
gap between the two of them, because high school and primary school is very, very different. It really does change boys in an instant, probably with girls the same. I just, I can only speak from experience. And I could watch them go through their own grieving journey, their own healing journey, I prefer to call it, because that's what we focus on in our family, in such a different manner. One of them wanted to talk about it all the time at first. The other one didn't want to have a bar of it. It's like, I don't want to talk about it. What's his standard answer? I don't want to talk about it. I still hear it in my head, And then he completely flipped. One wanted to talk about it all the time, and then the other one didn't want to have a bar of it. And to the point where I have to admit, I was actually quite shocked. I didn't even know what to say to it. It only just happened last night. I went and said goodnight to them, and I chatted to my sister-in-law before they went to bed, and we had a bit of a conversation how they're going, and somehow we got about the topic of pictures in their room, and she said, oh, they would have pictures of Rob everywhere. And I said, it's interesting you say that. Flynn doesn't. And I'm like, maybe we should have a chat to him about that, if he wants pictures of his dad in his room. And I did at night time when I said goodnight to him, and he's like, no, I don't want to. And I said, that's okay. Like, I was quite, I didn't know what to say to it. It was quite surprising. I thought he'd say, yeah, that's great. And I print them out and put them everywhere. And he's like, I don't want any pictures in my room, Mum. I said, we've got a picture of that surf wave there. And that's from Rob, it was his surf wave. There's a big picture of that. And I said, do you think it would make you sad if you see pictures of that? And he said, no, I just don't want any pictures. And I could tell straight away, yeah, it would make him sad. He doesn't want it. And Jeff's got all the pictures hanging there. So it's so different. So my question to you is, how do you deal with that at the camp? Because you would have kids of all ages, of all characters, of all want to talk about it, don't want to talk about it at all, crying, super happy, seeking the, talking about their pain, talking about joy and happiness. There would be all facets of it. How do you deal with that?
Oh, look, you've just given me so many thoughts. Where do I start? So particularly as a parent, you cannot imagine what you've been through and what other parents go through to lose a partner with kids. So where do you start? And if you're thinking your kids are going to go to a camp for 3 days with strangers to share things about your personal and private life, wow, how many parents don't send their kids to camp is a question I've asked since I started, because we don't capture that information. How many get to the front door of camp and go, oh, no, that's too hard, as a parent, not let alone the kids. So just I'll come to answer a few of your points there, but to start there is that's why we created our online program, thanks to COVID, because that allows us to do it's virtual camp but at home, and it helps open up the conversation on an equal platform. So from a parent to a child, or a child to a parent, the tools that we teach and the language that we use helps open the conversation at home. And it gives you, I guess, the same strategies. So as a parent, you say, I'm feeling like this today, and I'm a whatever on our scale. And your child gets the chance to say, well, what are you going to do about it, Mum? What are you going to do for self-care today when you're, heightened because you're sad? So it becomes this equal platform of sharing the grief, but also the strategies, because that's what we want. We want kids to understand it. We want parents to understand it. So that's, I guess, a product that every family can use, our Healthy Grieving program. The second one that we created last year is what we'll call our Family Day Camp. And that's the opportunity it's a family-focused day where the kids and the parents come to camp, and we take the whole family, we teach them some, emotional management, emotional literacy skills. Then we give the parents an opportunity and the kids an opportunity to go separately to do camp stuff for kids and to do parent stuff. So we do self-care strategies. We particularly have a theme at those family day camps that focuses on how to help the parents with themselves or with their kids. It might be mental health in the home and how to manage it. We have a different topic. And then we bring the families back together. But it's also a core part of what we do. We get kids to connect with kids. We get parents to connect with other parents, so nobody feels alone in their journey. And to answer, I think, the third part of what you're talking about there, at camp and all our programs are age related. So 7 to 9, 10 to 13 and 14 to 17 is how we divide them up at camp, or even our virtual camp online. because we understand the developmental needs of, even if you've got an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old, they are different. So we know the differences, and that's how we program around that. And I think the last point, kids at camp, some will say nothing or camp and then walk away and say, that was the best experience of my life. Some kids will open up and share everything and feel great about it. So, and then some kids that come back will open up the second time a little bit more because they feel a bit more comfortable, and hence the clinical perspective of the program at camp is to get them to open up early, share their grief story or how they're feeling and the emotions, and then teach them. So the more the times the kids come back, the more familiar they're going to be with recognizing their emotions and how to manage them. And hence doing either the healthy grieving program, the virtual camp, or the family day camp first, just gives a bit of an introduction to the tools we use at camp.
So can I just ask, the day camp is obviously in person, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and the virtual day camp is what was the camp before the 3-day immersive program that is now gone virtual. How can people understand how that works virtually? Are you literally online all day, or how do you run a 3-day camp online? That's just quite challenging. How can people expect to experience this?
So we're still running Camp Magic. So our 3-day camp is still running, COVID pending, of course. And and we have camps. We have 6 camps planned for this year as well. One in Victoria at the end of this month, exactly. Fingers crossed. And what we did with our virtual program, it runs over 2 weekends. So it's a Saturday, 4 sessions, Saturday morning, Saturday lunch, for around about an hour to an hour and a half each session. And then the following Saturday, Sunday. And there's a variation on the age range of parental involvement. So if it's a 7 to 9, the parents stay in the program as well for the full 4 sessions and the entire time. And because in between each session, we give conversational pieces to talk about it, to understand what you've learnt and how to apply it. And then in program, there's a facilitator and a mental health support person. So if emotions come up during the program, because it's a live program, and using Zoom, we can put people into a breakout room to talk about that, to help them.
That is fantastic.
And then we have our clinical psychologists that if a family needs to book in post weekend, we book them in on a Monday. So there's an immediate support with our clin psych as well.
That is amazing.
What the family what the family gets as part of that program is a participant box. So what we call a camper box. And it comes with the T-shirt, and it comes with the tools that we help. It's integrated into the program in a workbook. So it's a mini version of camp, just done differently. Yeah,
I like that. We also have like our T-shirts for the Loving Life After Loss Retreat. I've given that away. I shouldn't tell people that. Anyway, I really love that there is this mental support there as well. That's a really, really big thing, because that's the one thing I wanted to ask you about. You know, those mentors, I know a lot of them are volunteers as well. What's their background? How do they come to you? What's their training when they come? You know, that must be a huge responsibility for them. Can I ask a little bit about their background or how their training?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we got a broadening scope of volunteering opportunity, because the virtual program is delivered by volunteers as well. But at camp, we basically have 3 roles at camp for volunteers. One is the mentors, one is the what we call the wellbeing team, who do the psychoeducational components of camp, and then we have sort of support volunteers as well. So anybody can be a mentor. No criminal history, of course, no relevant criminal history. Working with children's texts and things like that are required. And the training we provide to them is 1 day. Used to be face-to-face. At the moment, we're doing it all virtual. And that's to understand there's a bit of emotional self-check in that process to be a mentor, because a lot of people find us wanting to become a mentor, and they've had their own loss story. And so many people come and say, oh, I wish this had been around when I was 13 and lost my mum or lost my dad. So they find us because they're looking for something for themselves, but then they can give to others. So then we do a little bit of understanding about camp and how it runs, as well as what the program, the psychoeducational program is. They're not expected to deliver it. So as a mentor, you go to support the camper, You don't have to deliver a program. You're just there as a support person.
Mm.
To be a well-being team member, we look for psychologists, psych students, mental health experts, some people that have got training in that space, counsellors, social workers and things like that, that can understand how to manage often a heightened environment, because it is when you're doing those sessions, there's lots of tears, and it's aiming to help kids realise that it's okay to cry. It's also okay as a mentor to cry as well, because a lot of them do. They get to share. Being vulnerable is a part of expressing that in front of a child or a camper, and it's okay, because that's what we want the kids to do, to express how they feel. How you just apply if you want to get on and be a mentor. Go to our volunteer page. You can select if you're a mental health expert. You can sign up that pathway. We do provide program training for mentors and wellbeing teams, so you're not left alone to turn up and just work it out. Then all our camps and programs are overseen by experienced. Our staff deliver the Camp Magic program and day camp, and our volunteers deliver our online program, as well as obviously at camp. So, I think
that's incredible. I'm a huge fan of that. You know, I wanted to know the background, because obviously, you know, for my personal reasons, when I wanted to settle in and get there, it really does interest me. How does it all work? How do you get that many volunteers? Because I talked to James Thomas about that. You know, how many volunteers you have, and it's incredible. There are quite a few hundred people that you have on your database, so to say, that are wanting to help, to jump in, to be there. And I think this is so beautiful. So if you're by any chance one of them watching this, I just want to give my absolute kudos to you, because it's absolutely beautiful what you do. And as you know, we share these videos far and wide. So I really think it's incredible. So just for everybody watching this as well, I ask Adam to share any links about the programs, or even, you know, if you feel you're the right person to apply for this, for any role, we will be sharing the links in the comments below. So fear not, there'll always be an option to touch base with us and to talk about this. And we're very happy to share all of that with you. And Adam, I'm going to ask you that at the end, what's the best way to contact you actually, but let's just go on with what we have here, because I think what you do is absolutely incredible. It's really so well needed, in particular when you look at the statistics. So how much has COVID actually impacted you? Because from what I see at Feel the Magic, what's been happening, I tend to always prefer to look at the positive impact that things have, even if it's adversity, even if it's something like COVID. It had a positive effect, because now you can reach even more people in terms of everything's gone online. How long did that take you? That must have been an incredible wave hitting you, going like, how do we adjust quickly, you know? Can you share a little bit about the background, what's been happening there?
Absolutely. So, you know,
Camp Feel the Magic.
We're very grateful for COVID, particularly last year, and because the organisation had grown as a charity year on year, and had continued to expand its programs and its fundraising to meet the needs of delivering more programs. So huge kudos to James and Christy to bring it along as a business to where it got to. When COVID forced us all into lockdown in March last year, as a team, we said, you know, these are our three options. We either hibernate and do nothing, adapt or die as an organisation, or three, create something that we can give to families in right now, as soon as right now could come around. So within 6 weeks, we created the Healthy Grieving Program, the online version. And then we took all the applicants that had applied for camp last year as a first offering. And for 6 or 7 months, we ran that program every weekend, and we filled up the program. So it met the need. It gave us insight into the needs of families more than just the needs of a child. So that opened my eyes up to what else could we do. And hence we also, you know, as a business, we changed a lot of systems, and we created, you know, a new operating structure at the back end as well. But it also then, as a program perspective, we looked at how do we support kids and families, not just kids, because with camp they do the parent guardian workshop, which is for parents to learn what the common languages that they're going to learn at camp, but it doesn't necessarily help families as a whole So hence why we created the virtual program to focus on the whole family and the family day camp. We're also very fortunate that through the New South Wales Ministry of Health, we received some pilot funding for another virtual program, which is called Let's Talk Suicide, for kids bereaved by parental or sibling suicide. Because the statistics just internally with Feel the Magic were about 20% of our kids that had come through camp had experienced the death of a parent or a sibling through suicide, which is a huge concern and a community and societal issue that so many people are trying to address with mental health support. When we looked at what we do and how we could adapt it to the grief associated with suicide, there's also the extra layers of suicidal grief, which is what we say is the shame, the blame, and the guilt the child feels for a parent dying by suicide. So that program also commenced earlier this year. So it's a second virtual program that we offer.
Can I just pause you there for 1 second, because I think this is one of the most important things to really talk about. You know, I have to admit, and I'm sharing that very openly these days, you know, when I first started Loving Life After Loss, this was one of my biggest fears, to have to deal with something that I have no idea about, because luckily I have never been in a situation to have to deal with suicide with anybody close to me. I've lost a lot of close friends and family members, and you know, lost my dad early, lost my husband way too early, very unexpected. So I'm very familiar with the topic of grief and death, and you know, seeing them straight after as well. Yet seeing somebody straight after suicide would be very, very different to somebody who passed unexpectedly, or even, you know, peacefully. Very, very different image. And since I have started Loving Life After Loss, I came across a lot of people who have dealt with suicide of their loved ones, be it children or spouses, and it's incredible what they're dealing with in terms of guilt and shame, like you just said. And I actually took myself through further training about suicide prevention, not so much because I wanted to deal with it per se, as in working in that field, yet predominantly to prepare myself for what's to come in my own group here, and just to know more about it. And it really opened my eyes to so many things that I have never dealt with before. So I actually urge anyone to do anything in that direction. If you just have the slightest concern or the slightest thought about it, educate yourself about it. There are courses out there, suicide prevention. It was literally a one-day course for me, and you can ask questions, you learn things about it. It's really, really incredible what people teach. So for you guys to add that and to step further into that and develop a whole program around it, I just really wanted to highlight that. It's incredible and it's so well needed. So people who, for me, I'm always worried about, because of the experiences that I have here with those topics in the group, I have also come across parents that then carry around their anger, their frustration, their helplessness, their guilt, their shame. And it, to me, from what I've seen, it usually splits in two parties. There are those who completely protect their children from that, and there are others that completely dump it on their children. I don't have any nicer words to say that. And I don't say that with any judgment, because I feel for those parents. I can see that they only do it because they don't have the support network, and because they're frustrated. They feel alone in this, and they feel the children are the closest. So of course I share them with that. Yet the damage that they can do with that is incredible. And again, this is with no judgment. This is with a whole lot of empathy for where these parents stand. So I'd really love to touch on that topic a little bit more, Adam, if you can share a little bit more about what do you actually do in this program. Is that for the parents? Is that for the kids? Is that for the whole family? And how do you deal with two completely different opposite parties coming into that again, you know?
Well, thank you for raising it, because you know, in my conversations with other organisations or organisations looking for some support for kids that are bereaved by suicide, there's a common line that I get from them is nobody wants to deal with kids and families suicide. It's too hard, and hence why when we had the opportunity to name the program, I said, we have to tackle this head on. Let's call it what it is, and let's not shy away from the program being called Let's Talk Suicide.
Yeah.
We're working, so our program, although funded by the New South Wales Ministry of Health, was co-designed with an organisation called Roses in the Ocean, and with lived experienced kids, so kids that have come through Camp Magic, that had experienced the death of a parent from suicide, adults who had experienced the death of a parent through suicide and not associated with Feel the Magic, and then parents of kids who were experienced the death of familial suicide. So we had a really good process to ensure that our program addressed the issues that families and people need, and hence the program's got great focus on what to address as a family. What we see is people come to inquire about the program and say, can you tell my kids how their dad died? And that's not our. We help give parents strategies on having those conversations, and we have an online, what we call Grief Resource Hub, where it's got materials to help have that conversation. The program itself, we talk about the elephant in the room as a cliche saying, but what we've put in our program, it's bigger than that. It's the whale in the room. And we help kids and families address that. And again, the program is divided by age range, 7 to 9, 10 to 13, 14 to 17. Yeah. Because again, the differences in understanding the concept of death by suicide and the support needs are obviously age related. We help to ensure that the parents and the kids can tell their own story around the death of their parent or sibling when it's death by suicide, because that's often the hardest thing. Kids will go for years, and their friends will never know how their dad died, or mum. Of course, there are. There's no gender difference. They'll say, dad's away working, and it'll go on for years. Or when they finally get to telling the story, the variations of how they died are many and far. So we don't want the kids to and parents to feel that shame or that blame. And when it comes to the sharing their story, it's a mental health challenge many people are facing in society, and this is a way that when it becomes overwhelming, it's how people choose to end their life. It's a fact. Let's help those who are survivors of family suicide. The other part around the program.
I just want to say something quickly, sorry, Adam, before we move forward with this, because the point that you just made, I find is so crucial in this whole thing, because the society part, society, like this is what I'm working with on a daily basis, and so do you, that society has got perspectives and expectations around how we deal with grief, how we handle grief, and they're not very positive. What our society here teaches us, our culture here teaches us, is that when somebody dies, you literally fall apart and you're sad. In a very nutshell, in a very down to basic sort of thing. Nobody teaches you where to allow happiness and joy back in, that you are allowed to be happy, that all emotions are allowed, the sadness and the happiness. Because the sadness, everybody's okay with. Oh yeah, of course, you lost your dad, of course you're sad, you lost your husband, of course you fall apart. But when you're happy, dare you, when you're happy too early. She's not even grieving her husband, why is her kid so happy? And there's that judgment. But then when you're after you're still sad, why have you not moved on yet? There is this weird expectation and time frame around, the first 6 months are the worst, and then when you finally done the first year of milestone, and then you need to move forward. And there's all these expectations where I'm like, why push people, or why hold them back? Why not allow them to walk in their own pace? This is what I'm really big about in Loving Love After Loss. That yes, you do come to this group for a particular reason. I mean, our group, our movement has got the title Loving Love After Loss. Nobody joins us who doesn't want that. That's why I love that you call the program Let's Talk Suicide, because the more you put a name, a title to a movement, to a group, to a program that actually nails it, that actually is a call to action, that actually says what it is about, the more you get those people in who really need you. And my biggest concern is And this is why I'm so big about educating the society. And when people ask me what my goal is, I always say, I want to heal the world from grief. I don't stop at a small goal. I want to heal the world from grief. And I don't even flinch anymore when I say it now, because I truly believe that we need to do this, and we need to work with those cultures who don't accept joy and happiness as part of it. And when you think about children going back to school after, God forbid, having lost a parent to suicide, I can only imagine how confronting it would be for them if we as adults are already so unforgiving and have huge expectations around how we're supposed to grieve. Children only learn from us. Children learn from their environment, from their society. So imagine somebody being at recess running around and one person shouts out, "Oh, your dad killed himself," you know. Unfortunately, kids are brutally honest and straightforward. They don't sugarcoat it. It does happen. So I can only imagine why kids would hide that away.
Absolutely.
And by teaching them how to deal with that, how to learn to not feel that shame, not feel that guilt, I think it's a very, very important step. Yet we still have so much work to do with what they're confronted with. You know, I just really felt like putting that in there.
Oh no, it's 100% correct, because, and you touched on another point of development that Feel the Magic's working on, and that is the school environment. But I'll get to that in a moment. The statistics around intergenerational death by suicide is staggering. That a child who's bereaved by parental suicide are 2 to 3 times more likely than average other kids to take their own life as well. So, you know, that statistic alone is devastating to think.
Wow.
And our program is aiming to address the things that you just spoke about, is that if you don't talk about it, if you don't share it, if you don't know how to manage the emotions that come with it, kids don't build the story and the emotional literacy to be able to manage those situations. And when life gets hard, and when you get a little bit older, the older you get, life doesn't get any easier. In a positive way, of course. It just, you get finances and you get jobs and you get relationships. Those things impact on you. So it does, the program aims to ensure that kids can tell their story and can manage the emotions around the grief, but also manage the emotions around, as we said, the shame and the blame that goes with it, and the guilt. Sometimes kids carry them, I should have done this and I should have done it. I could have stopped that from happening, and these kind of things. And, there's no way you can convince somebody to think differently unless you teach them the realization of their part and how they live their, how they respond to it emotionally, and then with the right frame of mind and strategies. And that's what that program's aiming to do.
It's incredible. I'm really glad that you brought that out, because it's so well needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know how desperate parents are to try and find that help, because what parent wants to face that parenting responsibility on their own? And you can go to counselling and you can go to psychology support or whatever it is, until you put kids or parents with other kids or parents who understand explicitly what they're going through. They'll always feel like, and parents won't understand. That's why groups, you find your tribe when you're looking for some support. And when you've gone through something like a partner or a child's death by suicide, or death in general, if you're talking about Feel the Magic as a whole, is people, until they find that place where they feel they belong, they're always going to feel like they don't belong. And kids going back to school after the death of a brother or a sister or a parent by suicide or anything else, they feel isolated. And the big challenge that kids feel, we see with schools, is teachers don't know how to manage it. They don't get taught, I guess, integration of a child who's experienced grief or loss back at school. That's not a subject at uni. So who's teaching
It's
teachers?
not at all. Like, I remember, and I still don't understand how or why, but I remember the day I received the news of Rob's passing, I went through all the motions and tick boxes, what I had to do. My brain literally went into functioning mode, and I ended up taking the boys, driving to Rob's mum and dad to tell them in person. I thought, there's no way I could tell them over the phone. I felt I had to do it. I couldn't wait till the next day. So I did all that. And I remember when everything, when the night was almost over, all the friends, relatives, everybody came, and I was so overwhelmed. I was sitting there in 4 layers, freezing because it was winter. I just couldn't warm up, through the shock, for everything. And then I finally stood in a shower and I had this epiphany. It's like, I need to call the principal. There's nothing I want to deal with tomorrow, because I knew the next day I had to fly to Perth, to the other side of Australia to identify his body. I had to do all these things that I thought, I need to do this now. And I don't know where that came from, but it was this epiphany of clarities of steps I needed to do. That's why I would say, it was literally functioning mode. My brain was just in functioning mode, tick boxes. And I somehow miraculously found his number, because who has got the personal mobile number of our school's principal? Nobody does. And I was lucky that I had connections to find out. And he rang me. And I have to say, he was absolutely incredible of how he dealt with it. Absolutely incredible. I've got a white feather floating past my office. I love when that happens. I talk about these things. And he literally took everything on. He said, I deal with that. I'll talk to the counsellor. I'll make sure that they get the support. You take off, time off as much as you need to. You can call me at any time. You've got my personal number. He was absolutely incredible. Yet the thing is, both my boys did go and see the school counsellor, and I had very close contact with her, as you can imagine. Like we would talk all the time. Yet, and here's the thing, and I really want everybody to listen to this, because it is really important. When I talked to her, she said, in particular, my little one who was going through this, I don't want to talk about it phase, like literally. And he saw her at the beginning every week, then every second week. And she would say, look, I do work with him and we play, we talk a lot, but he does not want to talk about that. He doesn't want to talk about that. And then weeks later, I'm going to be very emotional about this, but it was so important. That's why I want to share this. Weeks later, I took him to training at Hapkido, because he was doing martial arts at the time, and they were very active in that. They went like 3-4 times, 2 or 3 times a week, plus other sport. Anyway, so it was really lots of things going on for us. And he didn't want to go. He had a meltdown. He's like, I don't want to go. And I just took him and said, we don't have to go. Let's go. And I sat in the car and he was crying, and I held him, and he's sitting there in his white pants and everything ready to go. And I'm holding him, and I said to him, and I went into emotions, and I said, Jed, can I ask you something? He said, yeah. And he's like fully in tears, And then he said, where right now is your happy place? We all need a happy place, Where are you the happiest at the moment? And he said, at Doreen's, and that was the school counsellor. And I cried. I was just so emotional about it, because I thought, this woman has got no idea how much she means to him. She's a counsellor, she's trained in all of that. But how many counsellors are really trained in, school counsellors, in dealing with a child's loss of a parent? It's not really in their job description. Usually it's not something that happens a lot. And Doreen, I believe she didn't have any experience with that. Yet she did such an incredible job of just creating a happy place for him. So I wanted to share that, because I feel it's very important that parents really hear that part as well. It's not always what you do. It's not always the healing that needs to happen, or the talking about it, or the finding words how to express it. Sometimes they just need a happy place and be allowed not to talk about it. That was a huge thing for me, because as you can see, I'm a talker. So to have a child that doesn't want to talk, it was really incredibly hard for me, to create that space for him where he could just be and not have to talk about it. And that was really, really hard for me to accept.
I think it becomes a parental instinct to want to get inside their head and make sure they're okay, and hear what they're, what's going through their mind, and obviously what's going through their heart and through to their mind, because you want to know. For you touch on it all the time, the healing process, and for us as adults, the rational thing is to talk about it, to make sure that we understand that you are healing and that you're sharing the dark and the light. But kids, just 100% correct, and that's one of the things we do teach them is, what are your self-care strategies? And for some, it is different for every individual on the earth. For some kids, a self-care strategy is sitting by themselves, or kicking a ball, or whatever it is. And for some other kids, it's talking about it and sharing their thoughts, and drawing a picture of their mum or dad or whatever it is.
Exactly.
So it's 100% correct. That they will
they
find
had
what
some
makes them
live
happy.
play, and he came home every week with like a little piggy, or with something, something that he made, or a little island with a palm tree. I was always amazed. I'm like, all these creative part, but there was never a talk about world party ever. And at first I was like, oh, this is not working. And then I all of a sudden had this epiphany how much that was working for him. We just had very different expectations. And so did the counselor, I think. So I actually rang her and I told her, and she was so relieved. She was like, oh my God, I had no idea. So it really did make a huge difference for her as well, knowing that with what she provided, it was the most amazing thing for Jed, and he really needed that. So yeah.
That's great. And we have created a schools education program to help teachers understand. It's what we call healthy emotional literacy program for us to, and it's a corporate kind of package, but we're aiming to try and sell it into schools, because when if you look at the statistics, we say 1 in 20, that is literally one kid in every classroom in Australia would experience this before they're 18. So we know that the need is out there. And it's the integration of understanding that, and all kids go through their own emotional journey for whatever reasons, but obviously we focus on bereavement. When it's coming up to Father's Day and you've got 2 or 3 kids, what are they feeling? Do teachers just avoid it and go, well, let's not talk to over there about Father's Day because he lost his dad? And it's like, no, it's an important part to understand, and that those kids are remembering, their dad. And for teachers to avoid it is just not helpful, because how does that make the child feel? More isolated. So, our program is aiming to help teachers understand. And then there's the emotional ups and downs as well of a kid, a 10-year-old in class that, a song could trigger it, or drawing or reading or listening, or anything can trigger those emotions. So that's a big part of what and also focusing in schools for us is the peer relations, and doing something with a kid and his friends or her friends, so they can grieve together, because often the friends miss out. They don't understand what the child's going through, yet they may have known the child's dad or mum or whoever they've lost. So
and that too is so different. My older one, we were all quite supportive of him at first, but then it just went downhill. It was really not good. Like Flynn actually changed schools halfway through year 6, so because of lack of support but he was in a one-stream school. You either find your peers or you don't, and if you don't, then you're pretty much stuffed when you're in a one-stream school. Yet for Jed, it was the complete opposite. He was absolutely cradled in, which was amazing, because he was the one who didn't want to talk about it. So for him, it was even more so important to have that support. And I know his best friend, so beautiful, he would ask him so carefully, so beautifully, like he was. And his mom is actually a social worker, so she knows exactly how to coach him, how to talk to Jed. It was so beautiful. It was really incredible support for him. And for Flynn to change schools, that was incredible too. I was really worried about that. Halfway through year 6, you're almost there, and like, how on earth? And I had to make this decision on my own, and I did, and I was so grateful, because it worked out so well for him. He came into a bigger school. He loved it. He was, all of a sudden had all his peers that he never had before, and he was absolutely incredible. So it's that ongoing. Kids do have different needs. We all do, not just kids. We all do need different things. Some really want to talk about it, and others don't. And I'm just, I just always want to talk about the healing and the good things, and not stay stuck in the sadness. And everywhere is different, and that's really great.
You mentioned it before though, and it's so important that it's okay to be sad. I know that grief is often it's seen as a sad subject matter, and it is. There's no debating that.
Yeah.
But what we call the program Healthy Grieving Program for a very good reason. And the kids learn this at camp, is by the time they've gone through the emotions, and at the end of it, it's okay to be happy, and it's okay to be sad. And it's understanding when is those emotions coming and what to do about those emotions. And, for, like you mentioned about your own boys, is, it's a conflict to be happy because dad's not around. Is it okay to be happy?
I'm not supposed to be happy. Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Am I meant to be sad all the time because I don't have a dad or a mum anymore? And it's not the case. It's understanding. It's not a right or wrong, and it's knowing it's okay to be happy and it's okay to be sad. It's just how you feel.
Yeah.
And at times it's going to be both. It's going to be such a
conflict. I think the danger was yeah, it is such a conflict because it's that whole expectation of society that we're dealing with here as well. And then also what shocked me a little bit yesterday when I talked to Flynn at night time, and he's like, yeah, no, I don't want any pictures. And I was like, wow, it's that I don't want to be sad.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, it's okay to be sad. And I'm thinking, when you're a coach yourself, you're constantly like, oh my God, have I done too much of this? Have I done too much of that? You constantly question yourself as well. I'm like, oh my God, just be a mom. Don't be a coach when you work with your kids. And that is really something that I have lived by as much as I could. But then you do ask yourself, is it like, it is okay to be sad as well, just because I'm doing all of this. And Flynn was a huge supporter. He was telling me from day dot how amazing he thinks it is what I do. And I was so blown away to hear that from a back then 11-year-old. He was 11 when he told me that. He's like, it's amazing what you've done with our life, Mum. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was really incredible. But now also to tell him, it is incredible what we've done here. And I love what I've created with Love Enough After Loss. But it doesn't mean that you can't be sad. We all have those moments. I have those moments. I just cried myself to sleep last week because they were ripping out my ensuite in my house. And I'm like, that's another piece of Rob and I gone, and like, yeah. So it is like an ocean. I always compare it with the ocean. It comes in waves, and sometimes the ocean is very calm. There's a strong undercurrent, and other times there's a storm, and you just learn how to float. You learn how to surf, and that's what it's all about, to really be allowed to have all of the emotions and not feeling like you have to be sad or you have to be happy. You don't have to be anything. But my only little alarm bells go off when people, in particular kids, stay stuck in one, when they're just always sad and don't dare to move out, or always happy and don't dare to be sad. That's why my alarm bells went off last night. I'm like, okay, keeping an eye on that.
It's an interesting concept because there's, I'll just touch on it very briefly. We have one other development program. We've got schools program, one other development program we're aiming to trial and pilot this year again in co-design with young people. And it's what we're calling grad camp. And it's where kids that have come through Camp Magic, so understand our strategies, get to 17, 18 and straddle that adolescent to adulthood part of life. And what we want to build into that program, so the psychological outcomes, is how to manage your mental health with grief as an adult. When you're facing other challenges in life, finances and relationships and jobs, and the uncertainty of, what career path do I choose at 19 when it makes diddly squat out difference anyway, doesn't it? But the aim of that program is to make sure that it's that, I guess, that understanding that as an adolescent and riding the emotions can be like a wave. It can be like the ocean. And when you get to adulthood, it's no different. It's just the same. You go through the ups and the downs. I'm excited about that program getting off the ground as well this year. But to help young people.
Awesome. I really am a huge supporter of Feel the Magic, hence I wanted to bring you into this group. I can't believe we're almost at the hour now. I just wanted to do two more things, Adam. If you can you give us a little wrap up just to go through all the programs and everything you offer again, just in a nutshell, to name the programs, give like 1 or 2 lines about it so people can actually take note of it. I'm like, that's what I need. That's what I want for my child, for myself. Can we just do a quick run through them again?
Definitely. So, I'll start at the front end. If parents are looking for any resources or help, it's go to our website, feelthemagic.org.au, and look up grief.
Share it in the comments.
Perfect, thank you. Grief Resource Hub, and there's things for parents there on having conversations or what to do to keep memories alive and things like that. There's also links to other organisations that we support who work in this space. If you're a first time looking for help for grief, what our process is usually to do one of our family day camps, which is a program for the whole family to come along, and we run them face to face. And the next one in Sydney and the Hunter Valley or Lake Macquarie later this year. Our Healthy Grieving program or virtual camp is a 4-session over 2 Saturdays, where parents and kids participate in varying degrees of participation from the parent side. but it's a program delivered virtually to support the families at home. So that's Virtual Camp or Healthy Grieving program. Then we have Let's
And
Talk.
you do run them in person in other areas at the moment as well?
Not virtual camp. No, virtual camp is all delivered online. Yep. Family Day Camp we run in Victoria, ACT, and New South Wales. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Then Let's Talk Suicide. We have various dates, but the dates are on our website, and that's obviously for kids bereaved by parental or sibling suicide. And again, it's run over 2 sessions. I didn't add to that, but there's one incredibly important part of that program, and it's a midweek parent session only. So the program starts on a Sunday. The midweek is for parents only, and that's been one of the biggest, I guess, serendipitous part of the program outcomes is we didn't see how much parents needed that. And then the following Sunday, the program runs the second session. And our last one, our signature program is Camp Magic, which we're running 6 camps this year across Victoria, ACT and Sydney, and the Hunter Valley. We're running our first dedicated camp in Lake Macquarie in November, so for that Hunter New England region as well. And hopefully early next year, we'll run a Family Day Camp for families that are bereaved by suicide only. So we'll help address that societal challenge together.
That's awesome. Plus a few aces up your sleeves about, getting education into the school system. That would be really, really beautiful. Obviously, education about grief, because there's education already there. I don't want to offend anyone. I can't thank you enough, Adam, for your time, really. I think what you do with Feel the Magic is so incredibly important and powerful. It's really, really beautiful what you do. Congratulations on stepping up and filling those booths. And my final question would have been share the website, but you've already said that anyway. So thank you so much. We will be sharing the website underneath so you can find all the information. What is the best way for people to contact you if they want to chat to you through the website?
Yeah,
and you can direct them to whatever team member or if it's you in person.
Can I give my phone number out now or my email address? Is that okay to do it live?
Absolutely, if you want to. So I hope you're not going to get bombarded.
Adam.Blatch, which is BLATCH at feelthemagic.org.au, or my mobile number is 0401 775 770. So absolutely here to help.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. We will be sharing all these details in the comments below as well, so you don't have to go searching through the whole video again where to find all those details. Thank you so much for watching, Adam. Thank you so much for your time and for what you do. And I'm absolutely certain that we will stay connected in the future and see how we can work together on various things. We've already had a few chats about that, and I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you. I really want to thank you for being here today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, and thank you for helping share what Feel the Magic does to your audiences.
Absolutely.
Greatly appreciated.
Thank you,
Marie.
Have a beautiful day, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Bye for now.